Joining us now and making an appearance with us live on the show is Adam Amin, ESPN play-by-play man. Adam, it's nice to have you in studio on the set, per se, in studio.
Yeah, this is a whole new thing. I mean, I came here for the Cincinnati game last year, and you guys invited me. Very gracious hosts, as you guys always are, but I couldn't make it out because we had a production meeting at the exact same time. I carved out the time.
Yeah,
I was like, do not schedule a meeting. I've got my buddies to go out and chat with at Lavelle Edwards, so I'm happy to be here.
And
one of the
put you on
greatest
the video
moments.
board.
Yes, your face was all over the Lavelle
Like
Edwards
I said,
video board.
about to scale, I would say. I hope seeing it in person kind of makes you realize what the actual size of the head is.
Yeah. We have to talk about something.
All right.
The NIT.
Yeah.
Your Valpo.
Yeah.
Your Valpo team beat BYU.
I mean, it was
still not over it.
in incredible fashion.
Why you gotta
by the way,
why you got to block Chase Fisher like that?
That was, I mean, to hit the three in the final seconds, plus to get the block. And listen, a couple of years ago, Valpo goes to the NCAA tournament. We've got Maryland on the ropes. I mean, we were about to win against Maryland, and Varun Ram, who's about my height, ends up blocking a shot right at the horn to send Maryland into the third round, and Valpo got snubbed. I thought they got snubbed. I thought it was a foul personally, and I think a lot of other people did too. But that being said, I feel like we had to get revenge. I feel bad that it came out.
So there was, okay.
Yeah.
You were due.
We were due.
after
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. We were due. I mean, karmic energy, I guess, for lack of a better term, whatever you want to put.
It
on top of
happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, BYU had to be the one that was on the opposite end of receiving that karma from Valpo.
And I forgot
yeah.
you went to Valpo. And
You,
then you,
well,
you
I was
reminded
kind
me
of
on
talking
Twitter.
smack to you on Twitter, and like I don't think you realized it within like a tweet or two. It took you like 3 tweets for you really. Oh, he went there.
I remember.
He actually went to school there, and that was his educational background.
I told Spencer, I was like, why does Adam Amin care about
Why is he
Valpo
why is he-
basketball so much?
Where's
Why
this
is he,
random Valpo
Why is he
fan
coming at
from?
me? Oh, he went to Valpo.
I remember that conversation in our office. Like, what's happening right
It took
here?
you guys
And
a
I'm
little
like,
while to
didn't he
figure
go
it out.
to
I was like,
Valpo?
One, Adam's following me, and 2, he cares about Valpo.
I understand I'm not the biggest alumnus from that school. We had the voice of the Pillsbury Doughboys, so I understand that I'm not like
Really?
near the top of the list
It's a
for
tough road for
famous
you.
alumni. I mean, I've got a big hurdle to climb.
So Pillsbury Doughboy, Bryce
Drew,
Drew, and then Adam.
And
I
Adam
Amin.
think, I
Amin.
think I'm number 3 on
Pretty
that list.
good.
I think it's not a bad place to be, but I definitely put in the Doughboy above me.
You're a busy dude between Major League Baseball and NFL and college football. What's your life like as a broadcaster right now?
It is a little tiring, admittedly. I came in early yesterday morning from San Francisco. We had a great game, Rockies and Giants, on Wednesday night, and the Giants are still in the thick of the wild card hunt. So between doing baseball, maybe ending up sliding over to one of those tiebreaker games if they go to a 163 on Monday, might have to be ready to do that. I get to go home tomorrow because I've got a Bears game at home on Sunday, so thankfully I get a little bit of a respite. But I mean, it's what you sign up for, and this is what you want, and this is what you hope to get to do. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. It'd be dumb for me to do that, and it beats digging ditches for a living. So
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So tonight you have BYU and Toledo on ESPN2.
Yep.
This is an intriguing matchup. We've been talking about Toledo's good. We're just not sure how good.
Sure.
What do you think of the Rockets?
I think they're a lot better than people realize. I think you guys have it down. We don't know exactly how good they are just yet, but listen, it's a talented defense. When you only give up 30 points, the only other teams that are on that level through this portion of the season, a third of the way through, Miami and Memphis. Memphis is an improving defensive team, and we know what type of talent Miami can get on the defensive side of the ball. So to be at that level, even though you've only played 3 teams that are probably, maybe one of them is going to be a bowl team by the end of the season. I think Arkansas State, maybe out of those 3, maybe a Fresno State. But with all that being said, this is a very talented team. I think they're better on defense than people realize. They get after the quarterback. They can do multiple things. I think you'll see a couple of guys you need to watch out for. Olison Conmi-Adani is off the edge. He's kind of the Harvey Longy of Toledo's defense. He can drop back in coverage. He can rush. So there are a lot of different sets that these guys are going to throw at you guys tonight. So be aware of it. I think that's the biggest thing. We saw West Virginia drop back a lot in coverage. Might see a little bit of a mix from Toledo tonight.
What did you learn in your conversations with the coaches from BYU and Toledo that maybe you didn't know before just from your study of game notes and whatnot?
I think Kalani's the right guy for this job. I know a lot of people are going to sit here and say, well, listen, 1-3, we shouldn't be that way, and I understand that. I mean, I think back to, 5-6 years ago, you guys started off, 1-4 under Bronco and then had a phenomenal run, 6 of the last 8 or 5 of the last 7, something along those lines. And you guys got to 7-6 and got to bowl eligibility, and that's what you're gunning for, is to make a bowl game when you have a bit of a rough patch to start the year. But listen, 7 points. How can you be angry when your team is right against good teams too?
It's
I know
bizarre, right?
It is
7
tremendously
points.
bizarre against 3 Pac-12 teams, and then a decent I would say a pretty good offense and a decent team in West Virginia to be separated by 7 points and really 8 when you go back to the, or a couple of points in the opener too. So 9, 10 points are deciding your first 4 games. That is a tremendously bizarre thing. I've never seen it like that. It's only happened once in the last, 20 years or something like that for BYU. I think Greg tweeted out a stat last week along those lines. So to have this type of, bad luck if you want to call it that, but whatever your term is for it, that is tremendously bizarre. So I think the process is working. The offense does have kinks. I'm not saying that it's perfect or anything like that. Taysom is having some struggles, I think, with pocket concepts. But after all of that, when you get away from the really weeds of all of it, you get to the surface level and you look at this team, it's a really good team.
You're going to call the game with Mack Brown. BYU
Yes.
fans, of course, his last time here was 2013. And that was unfortunately kind of the beginning and the end there.
It was.
But what's it like to interact with Mack Brown, and what's it like for him to be back in Provo?
I'll tell you a story from our meetings yesterday. So we got to meet Jamal and meet Taysom, and those are 2 of the guys that had a major impact on him being in television. And, of course, that was his first line. He said Verrett with a big smile on his face, and that's the type of guy that Mack is. But he goes, I got you boys to thank because you got me with this crew. So I appreciated that. Taysom ran for 200-plus yards and 250-plus yards in that game against Texas, and after all the weather delays and things like that. Not a very good experience for Mack, but he's got such a great outlook about it. You will not meet a more positive human being than Mack Brown. He's one of the nicest, most charming human beings around. He obviously knows his football. He's got a tremendous pedigree, and he demands the respect of a lot of people around him. He is as good of a guy as I've ever known. He's as good of a partner as I could ask for.
What does he anticipate between BYU and Toledo tonight in your conversations with him that you've had after meeting with the players and coaches?
I think he was pleasantly surprised with the talent level of Toledo. Logan Woodside impressed him a lot. Logan's a kid that had to wait around a little bit. He lost the starting job last year to Philip Ely, a kid that transferred from Alabama and did a very good job for, as you guys were mentioning, a very good Toledo team that got into the top 20 last year. So he had to wait around. He took a bit of a hit to his ego, but it motivated him. He's a really efficient passer, leads the country in efficiency right now. 1 pick, 11 touchdowns. And he's a Kentucky kid who grew up rooting for Texas. And that obviously tickled the fancy of one Mack Brown. So he said, I grew up watching Vince Young and I grew up watching Colt McCoy. And he talked about his preparation and said that, on the 3-hour flight over here, he was sitting on the plane doodling every play and every read in order against what the defenses might be against BYU. That's the type of preparation geek he is. And he's a film room rat. And Mack Brown looks at me afterwards, after we got a chance to meet him, and says, that was Colt McCoy. That was how Colt McCoy prepared for games. Not necessarily comparing the arm talent or anything like that, but to see that parallel of preparation to process and to give him that type of compliment, I think is a big deal.
Yeah, that's impressive. This is a big game for BYU in a lot of ways because they're 1-3 and they still have Michigan State, Mississippi State, Boise State at Cincinnati. They almost have to win this to ensure that they aren't in a must-win 6 of 7 for a bowl game or something. This is big time for BYU.
Yeah, again, I don't know where you want to put Toledo just yet. I don't know how they compare, again, to the rest of the country based on the schedule that they've played, but they've played very well against it. If you're going to win games, you got to win games, quote unquote, like this. I'm not putting Toledo down, but it's not going to be a road game against Michigan State. It's not going to be going on the road to take on Boise State on a short week. So you got to win games like this now. There are certain things that play into into BYU's advantage. I came into the Cincinnati game last year, like we talked about, and I really thought in the fourth quarter, Cincinnati, a team that had never been to the state of Utah to play a football game, I thought the fourth quarter is when they started to wear down, and BYU entered trailing the fourth, had some explosive plays, and won the game by 2 touchdowns. That's going to be tough for these guys because they played one game, and none of these guys really have played that game, but they played at Wyoming. That was the highest elevation they've ever played at. This is the second highest. So this is going to be a test. Yes, they had a bye week. They had a chance to condition a little bit for it, but until you get reps at elevation for a full 60 minutes and you're breathing hard and trying to run plays, I'm not saying they're an up-tempo team, but they want to make sure that they're efficient. That's a tough thing to deal with, and the fourth quarter is going to be huge. If BYU's in it, like they have been in the first 4 games, we might be in for a crazy fourth quarter.
Every week has been a very entertaining
I was going to say, at the very least, I was like, well, at least Toledo's undefeated, and hey, BYU's had some fun games. So, listen, I've been blowout city so far, all right? It's been rough.
You've been blowout city. You've not had the Tessitore effect.
We have not. I have been the complete opposite of the Tessitore effect. I texted Joe the other day, and I'm like, listen, do you got some magic dust in your pocket that you can FedEx to us, because we are desperate for a good game. Colorado State, Louisville, Syracuse, which was fun because we got to introduce Lamar Jackson, or maybe reintroduce him to the country that week.
Good grief.
Baylor against Rice turned into a blowout. We had TCU SMU last week, which was a blowout. So thankfully, we have a close line. Maybe that, if that's any indication, we've had two really good teams that have been right on the cusp of doing some bigger things. So hopefully, we've got a little bit of entertainment involved tonight.
We're here for you. Okay, BYU's here for you, Adam.
This is why I came.
Earlier, we've made some comparisons this week, me specifically,
Sure.
and I said that Boise State, or rather, the Toledo Rockets are the Boise State of the MAC. Do you feel like that's a fair comparison?
You're not the only one to say it, and there have been guys on the BYU staff that have said it. There have been guys on the Toledo side of things that have said it. We feel that level of explosiveness is apt. So Boise State has played good defense in years past against tough offensive opponents. And, again, as explosive of an offense as you can ask for when you look at the whole body of work over the last, 10 years or so. So Toledo's in that regard. I do think the difference is they're not as big of a run team or as big of a pass team as Boise State. Boise State, you think of Kellen Moore's of the world and the big-time passing ability that they had. I know Jay Ajayi is just a couple years out of that team and into the NFL. But with all that being said, Toledo wants to run the ball because when you get to November – and you play Tuesday and Wednesday night games, you got to run. You got to be able to have guys that are going to be workhorses. They're going to establish the run. And you go back 20 years, they've got an incredible pedigree of running backs going on away Sean Tate and Jalen Parmalee and Chester Taylor, and it goes on and on and on. They've had a 1,000-yard rusher 14 of the last 21 years. So to have that type of establishment of the run game, and they want to be balanced, 33 rushing first downs, 32 passing first downs, very balanced. But they want to establish the run first. So I won't say exactly they're like Boise State, which I think of as more of an air raid team. This is a little bit of a different offense, but it's a similar explosiveness.
Something regionally with where you're from and the weather has to do with the way you play too sometimes.
Sure.
And yet Toledo is so explosive at the same time because Cody Thompson, every time the dude catches the ball, he averages 33 a catch to lead the country. That's wild.
Again, and this is something I think you guys saw it with West Virginia. Go downhill, sideline to sideline with screen passes, and then we're going to try to beat you with a bomb. And that's, granted, that's a lot of philosophies for offenses in college football. There's three things. Let's go downhill, let's go sideline to sideline, and then see if we can get a home run ball. And that's been West Virginia, and that is a little bit of Toledo. I think they have strengths in all of those capacities. But where they beat out BYU, and you guys have talked about it, where is the deep threat right now for BYU? That's something that Toledo has. Thompson is great. Cody Jones is a volume catcher. They've got Johnson on the outside as well. That's a good possession receiver. They've got a mix of guys in the backfield that can go sideline to sideline. So that's what scares me. If I'm a BYU fan and I'm looking at this defense, is Butch going to be able to play with the knee issue that he's had? He's a game-time decision. Is he going to be able to stop the run and fit, up the middle? And if you establish that downhill presence, all of a sudden now those deep threats become that much more viable. And that's what would scare me if I'm a BYU fan looking at tonight. You have to stop Cody Thompson from getting explosive plays. He's got, I think, 5 40-plus yard catches already this year.
That's 5 more than BYU as a team.
I was going to say, yeah. It hasn't been a whole lot of vertical threats so far.
Nope.
Why do you have to go there, Jeremy?
Sorry for bringing up the facts.
Yeah.
Not.
I thought, like I said, I thought we were going to come into the spin zone. This is what I thought we were going to do. We were just going to spin it all in the positive fashion. Like I said, I came here for the actual analysis. That's why I come to you guys.
The actual analysis.
The juxtaposition is fun about this game, and we talked about this early in the show. Toledo has won 9 in a row on the road, and BYU hasn't lost to a team from the Central or Eastern time zone in their last 9. Going back to 2010 in Provo.
Right.
So this is it's a fascinating matchup on so many levels because we don't know what Toledo really is until they are battle tested, and they'll get that tonight. But when you watch them play, there's just something magic about the Toledo Rockets.
I think the last couple of years, and they've made the transition obviously from Matt Campbell, a very young coach, to now Jason Candle, who is his offensive coordinator, an equally young coach, 36 years of age. And to see the transition be as smooth as it has been, because the philosophy is the same at Toledo. And even going back to Tim Beckman, it was kind of the similar philosophy. Let's get a quarterback who can manage the game, who has some arm talent that can throw downfield, but let's establish the run first. And I think Toledo's been one of those programs, and I believe this year the MAC is going to be very scary. Everybody's talking about Houston, and rightfully so, because they're a potential playoff team, and if they're not going to be in the playoffs, they're probably going to be one of the top group of 5 teams to play for a New Year's Six. Toledo's playing for that right now. I know they're 3-0 against a weak schedule.
True.
But let's not forget that this was a team that got in the top 20. You mentioned it, Iowa State, Arkansas, big wins last year to go on the road at Arkansas and win a game.
Beat a good Temple team in the bowl game.
Beat a very good Temple team in a bowl game last year, a Temple team that was much better than this year. They were much better
ranked
last
for
year.
most of that team.
Ranked for most of the year. They were, I think they were 24 in that bowl game. So Toledo has a lot of pedigree behind them, and I think this year might be one of those years where the MAC really competes for a group of 5 bowl slot. I mean, old BCS system, new college football playoff system. They have a chance to be one of those teams at the end of it, playing in one of the most important bowl games at the end of the year.
Well, Adam, we know you have a bunch of swag. You always have swag, so we want to give you some swag.
You don't have BYU Sports Nation
but you
swag,
don't have BYU
though.
Sports Nation swag. So
this is pretty awesome.
This is a brand new
T-shirt. Do I want to unveil this?
Sure.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is a brand new BYU Sports Nation.
Oh my
shirt
goodness! Look at
that we
this.
Just busted out.
This is pretty impressive.
The royal blue. It's like a shirt jersey, dude.
You know, I'm excited. Actually, I'm excited. I was going through the facilities last night, and I love the royal blue uniforms. I'm still kind of a sucker for them. The black jerseys with the dark blue and the black matte helmets.
Pretty sweet.
When are you guys going to bust those?
Utah State.
That's the Utah State game?
Regular season. Tonight's a whiteout.
Tonight's a whiteout, which I'm excited about.
And then royal for Mississippi State.
Solid, man. Man, this is impressive. By the way, thank you guys very much. I really
You got it.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks for
awesome.
coming over, man, for carving out a section of your very busy schedule. And you get a well-deserved day off tomorrow after an entertaining game tonight.
That's what I'm expecting tonight, but you guys really are a hassle. I hope you realize. Tremendous. Really not fun to hang out with. Really not enjoyable. The scenery sucks. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
The feeling is mutual.
Thanks, guys.
Get off
Appreciate
the
it. Yeah,
set.
I'm out of here. I should have just thrown down the headset.
Adam Amin of ESPN. You can watch him tonight with Mack Brown on ESPN2, 10:15 Eastern, 8:15 Mountain Time kickoff.